Max gets a start in the centres, and I think the Dragons have a chance on those. John Bateman is not playing; he's out with HIA.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity for the Dragons if they can get their fair share through the middle and make it a bit of a touch footy game, which I think it could be dry weather at Campbelltown. I think those big fellas on the edges, I can see them causing damage against the West Tigers. So it just comes down to how much they want to win on the weekend. It really is. I mean, we're not talking about the Dragons playing against a top four team. So this weekend is just as much in between the ears of the Dragons than it is about competition or who they're playing. But to answer your question, I think that those big guys on the edges, and I think Leilua against another former club, I think I think these are the games he wants to play in. So I think that's where you go. You go to your edges and try to play some football. But again, it comes back to how they react when something does go wrong, because something will go wrong during the game. So it's how they bounce back, and if they can keep themselves in it to the point where they might run away with it in the last 10, 15 minutes, but they have to get to that spot first.
Yeah, that battle on the edge is something we're going to talk about next when we preview that match against the West Tigers. It's happening Sunday afternoon at Campbelltown. But first, a break here on the Red V podcast. You're listening to episode 221.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only, must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Thanks for tuning in. Jack Clifton and Curtis Woodward here at the Red V podcast. Match preview time here on the show, and as we were just talking about just before, a big game for both these two sides, and a game that could potentially be in the balance when we head into that final 10 or 15 minute period. Both sides losing last game. They both sit at 2-3. The Tigers had strung together back-to-back wins, and to their credit, a nice little mini fight back against the Dolphins before eventually succumbing up there in Queensland. But I reckon this will be a pretty good match, Kurt. I think both these clubs know, are under no illusions as well, about what their season could look like. Any chance you can get to bank points over rivals and sides that have kind of been in and around those lower echelon spots in previous seasons are big games. But the Tigers, I think it's their first game at Campbelltown for the season. They're going to be primed and ready to go. What are you thinking about in terms of this contest on Sunday afternoon, mate?
Yeah, I think I've stolen a little bit of my own thunder talking about the Dragons' edges. I just hope that the Dragons have done their homework when it comes to the West Tigers pack and how intense they are this year, because I think there'll be really good chunks of the game where it'll be in the balance, and I think there'll be some swings there where the Dragons will get some good football, get into the back play. Whether they take their chances is another thing, but their middles need to be prepared that they're going to be hunted, if you like. And I talk about that all the time with all teams, is that the best sign for a team that's at least on the improve and playing for each other is how they work defensively. And I think that the best point was, and you made a good point about how they stuck in against the Dolphins, who are a very good team. Against Parramatta, who yes, we're missing Moses, but Easter Monday at Parramatta, against that Parramatta pack, and the amount of ball that West turned over and the penalties they gave away, I was waiting for it to blow out and Parramatta to win by 40. But the West Tigers have got a lot of really, really good veterans that are kind of playing off each other at the moment as well. Coruscant, Clemmer, Bateman, who's not playing, Papali'i, Olam, who is turning back the clock, playing some of his best football after coming up from Melbourne. I think this will be a very, very entertaining game, and like I said, a chance here for Ben Hunt as well. There's no Lockie Galvin, the young kid, the 18-year-old. He's suspended for one more week for his hip-hop tackle against Parramatta. And I think there's a chance for the Dragons to really go at Bud Sullivan defensively and get into him a little bit. maybe get a bit of fire in the game, a bit of push and shove. I think both sides would really enjoy that. And that might get the Dragons up just as much as West Tigers. So I hope there's some Dragons fans there. They haven't had too many games at Campbelltown over a long stint. And look, if you get around MacArthur Square on a Thursday night, or you're ever in the streets or you go for lunch somewhere, there's always 3-4 Dragons jerseys about. So I'm guessing this will be a pretty good crowd, maybe 60-40 in the way of West Tigers. But look, I'll throw it back to you, Jack. I'm just pumped up for the NRL back in Campbelltown and expecting a good crowd. But I think there's opportunities across the field for the Dragons. I think there is.
Yeah, I think what I worry about is that forward pack. I think Tokomanu was superb. I think Clemmer's still a really strong middle forward. We haven't even begun to speak about Api Coruscant, who obviously had a bit of a thigh strain, but got through the game against the Dolphins. Probably be better to have a bit of a rest throughout the week and make sure that's all good. I definitely think there's an advantage in the edge position for the Dragons. I think Sewer and Leilua again going to be relied on to get the Dragons up the field and try and bust open that defensive line for the Tigers. But as you were kind of just mentioning before, Kurt, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the front row, and maybe that's why Flanagan is going to lean on Hame Sele. Maybe he wants him out there for the first 15 or 20 minutes to try and take the sting out of the game before throwing on a Jack DeBellin and Laurie and trying to get a bit of impact from his bench. I'm still convinced that Sele won't start and he'll start from the bench. I think either way, you're probably going to get some kind of impact from the Pine at the 20, 25, 30-minute mark. But yeah, like I tend to agree with you, Kurt. I think there's opportunities for both these sides to put some points on and find some attacking success. I don't think either fan base are under any illusions that it is neither of these sides are finished products defensively. Still not great. I still think the Tigers are a better defensive unit than the Dragons, but it could be one of those games that finishes 34-28 or 30 points to 26. I'm intrigued to see that battle on the edge, especially with Bateman out. I think Seyfarth has gone into an edge back row position, Kurt. I reckon that'll be an intriguing battle. I think if you're kind of breaking down the stats to kind of use the old adage of Madden, and when you kind of compare positions and that kind of stuff, I think the edge back row probably a few points higher than the Tigers, but I think the Tigers probably win by knockout in terms of their front row compared to the Dragons.
Interesting you say that, though, Jack. I think there is an advantage here for the Dragons. So I think with Hame Sele, and I'm just putting my Dragons coach's hat on for a second. I'm looking at how important the West Tigers start is with Oi Tukamanu, who is an absolute bull and will play State of Origin this year for New South Wales. And then Clemmer, who is just thriving, running off the back of Oi Tukamanu's big runs. I look at the bench rotations as they stand. The West Tigers got a few boys out. So Jake Simpkin, I think, is going to get some more minutes this week. I understand that Api Coruscant is carrying a hamstring injury over the last couple of weeks, but you wouldn't know it the way he's playing like Superman at the minute and really living it as West Tigers captain and trying to bring them back to some kind of respectability. But then you've got Alex Twal, who is a cult hero at West Tigers, but a very up and down kind of front rower. Justin Matamua, who is supposed to be one of these guys coming through that's going to be from the Magpies juniors, that's going to be a huge star. But personally, if I was him, I'd be very frustrated with the lack of minutes I've had over the last 18 months. I wouldn't even know if he knows where he's going to play on the weekend, whether it's through the middle or an edge. And then Asu Kapoa, who was a winger last year, who now they're trying to turn